1. Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, if you examine the rhetoric of the previous speaker, and the problems they have are with cults of personality, bigots, and extremism, as an average individual, you have to ask, how does that happen? And I think rarely does that happen from the top down, but in many instances, it happens from the bottom up, where you have certain people from that religion with perverse incentives and beliefs, and they misconstrue and misrepresent what the texts are saying in the name of their ability to exercise their own belief. We have a problem solution mismatch from side proposition, and that exacerbates the polarization, fragments and undermines the institution, and restricts the ability of people to fight against those bad faith actors. We believe that the norms of the inner light leave the interpretation of religious texts and scripture solely to those specific individuals. That is to say, the vast diversity of human experiences, whether it be good or whether it be bad, serve as the anchor point that charge your religious belief and identity, that influence how you exercise this in actions in everyday life. This creates a potentially volatile, subjective, and perverse incentive structure because all of these interpretations can be different, and on our comparative, we need a strong centralized authority to be able to check and balance against that. And the point of information Matthew suggested, multiple religious organizations and sects, so that people can compare, people can freely choose, and in the worst case, people can opt out from those sects or even opt out from those religions. Case in point, I completely agree when radical Muslims misrepresent the Quran in the name of jihad, or ultra-conservative Catholics use the Bible to systemically disenfranchise the queer community. And I think the framing of the Prime Minister agrees with us. And the flip here is that if these people are now basing their faith more on something that is an interpersonal connection, the church and those pastors have less oversight to be able to correct these bullshit beliefs when they tell them that their interpretation is wrong and perverse. A few things on our side of the house to serve as framing and arguments today. Number one, this debate is a comparison of worlds between government counterfactual and on our side status quo. Make no mistake, status quo is not perfect, but there exist existing incentive structures or a check and balance to be able to hedge against the imperfection of these bad privileged figures like priests and pastors. I'll take you in a while. A, you have collective action to be able to support or dissent against these figures. Like in the Catholic Church, where there was a lot of uproar against Benedict XVI because he was kind of sus and he was alleged to be complicit in certain clergy crimes against young boys, and he resigned. Or on the contrary, when people were able to congregate support against the conclave of Pope Francis and himself because he was more progressive and liberal with the way he treated the queer and trans community. B, religious leaders and organization wanting to proselytize and literally get more followers within their belief system that in itself serve as a disincentive structure to be able to get further radicalized and polarized. On their comparative, when you leave this up to the voices in your head or the prayers that you have at night, restrict the ability to be able to go to these institutions to get some sort of help. C, competition in itself, which directly allows these organized religions and their sects, just like how the Catholic Church has Christianity, Protestantism, and even the other kinds of orders like the Dominicans, the Carmelites, etc. But before I proceed to my second point, I'll take the point of information. Go.
In your world, if someone is born in rural Afghanistan where they're practicing jihadist extremism, and if you were to call that out, you can't claim check and balance because now you're viewed as a traitor to your religion in that specific community.
No, because a lot of these multi-religious sects exist. So if one sect says, yo, jihad's fine, the others will be like, yo, bro, fuck that. That's a misinterpretation and a perversion of the Quran. On your comparative, you leave it up to those jihadists to become more radicalized and justify their belief system because God told them to, and that interpersonal connection in itself becomes a way to justify their actions. Number two, what are the harms of the inner light? A few things, right? Because of the birth lottery, people have subjective norms and experiences that affect their analysis and presupposition. So we question the lens of solely allowing these people to look at religion in that particular way when people can have prayers and dreams and delusions wherein God whispered to them and told them, you're the next Muhammad. Or God told them, a prophet told them, an angel, you are the Antichrist and you're here to be able to save and liberate the world. A lot of those rhetoric are particularly dangerous, can ultimately reinforce polarization and shift religious belief towards something potentially more dangerous or more radical in the name of religious freedom because you don't have a conduit, you don't have a pastor or a figure to be able to check against you, nor an institution that supports them to be able to call you out. Number three, the value in itself of stronger organized religion through centralized authority is good and effective. Why? Because this makes religions be able to push back against these particular collective actions, like in the Catholic Church, for instance, wherein people are able to dissent against certain clergy and certain priests, but at the same time, we're able to capture the upside. The Catholic Church, being one of the biggest charities in the world, with all of the good they do, are able to liberate huge swaths of people from poverty. That can only happen when you have a clear hierarchy and organization of where the money goes, who you go to, that actually serve as an ability of these people to spread these things out. Ladies and gentlemen, religious identity is quite important because it allows followers to be able to exercise their own belief system, to be able to freely move between different sects and different religions. If it's fine, then you stay. If not, then you bounce and move. Ultimately, on our side of the house, we tell you that no clear interpretation of text when you don't have these figureheads is ultimately important and can lead to the perversion, destabilization, and undermining the beliefs of this church. We are very proud to stand on side negative. Thank you.